Hi, this is Damon Pistolka, host of The Faces of Business, where I talk with interesting people, sharing life and business experiences to entertain, engage, build community, and provide information to help others succeed. If you're interested in learning more about one of our guests or how we are helping business owners generate wealth and build businesses they can sell or succeed at Exit Your Way, you can find more information on our website, exityourway.com, or by contacting me directly, Damon at exityourway.com. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and with me today, I have none other than Michael Gidlewski, and we're going to be talking about the importance of communicating more effectively from one of the masters himself. Michael.
Hey, great to be here. You know what? I think communication is overrated. I don't think we really have to communicate that much in business. I think technology can handle it all. AI, artificial intelligence, just hit the button.
Oh man, you know what? That discussion is definitely a hot topic right now, and I was testing it out a little bit over the weekend in this week because I hadn't really thought about it that much, and that's really sad, I know, but. Other than in general, you know, and some of the things that you hear people that know a lot about it, but it is interesting the kinds of answers that it generates on some general business questions or more specific things, really, because it's decent, but it's just not human yet by any means.
Right. And hopefully it'll never be human.
Yeah.
Or you might be in big trouble then.
But you can tell. I think really, and we're not going to just talk about AI today, but you can tell there's going to be some good practical uses for.
Oh yeah,
simple applications that can help lead people where they need to go and do that. So it's definitely interesting. But no, I don't think we're going to have to worry about AI replacing everyone tomorrow.
Right.
So when we talk about communicating more effectively, that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's what you're doing. But let's start back a little ways.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what got you started in business. What really led you to the point to where you said, I want to help business owners and leaders and do what you're doing now?
Well, I was in the sporting goods business for 25 years, and everything was driven on results, right? Including my salary and my bonuses, right? And all the salespeople, right? So I was obsessed, if you will, with, turning the inventory, getting higher profit margins, and helping the salespeople make more money. And I just felt that money was the answer to all problems, right? The more money they made, the more money I made. That was a win-win.
Everybody's great then.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I found out after, going bankrupt, getting divorced, and losing my house that money wasn't the end-all, be-all. It didn't solve all my problems. Only created more problems, right?
Yeah.
And so I found this company, a Paul J. Meyer company called Success Motivation Institute. And unbeknownst to me, it was a franchise. I went down for a big 3-day workshop, but I learned something about motivation that, believe it or not, I hadn't known. I was motivating my people with rewards, right? Incentive motivation or fear motivation. I always wonder why everybody didn't just, blow the lid off of sales. Why some people sat back because they weren't motivated by money. Mm-hmm. There were other things more meaningful and important to them, right? And we see that more and more in today's world, right? Where millennials, they want to work for companies that have meaning, that do some social good, that give back, that create, that have a really good culture. So I bought that franchise, and I started out doing that 1996. I went out full time, and I've been running ever since.
Awesome. And that's, really, you were starting this in the age when it was reward motivation. That's really what was that was commonplace in the way people did it.
Yes, absolutely. It was incentive and fear. Do it or I'll fire you. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. So as you gone through this, what are when you first started, what were some of the revelations that you had?
Well, we hear all the time that people don't work up to their potential, or we have a tremendous amount of potential, right? We tap into it. The psychologist tells maybe 10, 15% of our potential. And I realized that was what people were doing. They were automatic pilot mostly, right? So they're just going through the routines and everything. And when we started to help them really set meaningful goals for themselves, goals that they really really wanted to achieve, and not just money goals, but
Yeah.
health goals, spiritual goals, social goals, learning goals, that people really really got excited about it. And no one ever really talked to people about their personal goals. It was all business, right?
Yeah.
In God we trust, all others pay cash. How much can you sell for me this month?
Yeah.
And that was man, it was just a very, very significant shift as people, because we give them a process too. The goal setting is like the most beat to death topic in the world, but nobody really has a process. And Paul J. Meyer came out with this 9-step process that really helps people do that. And
Oh,
it's kind of like if you go through the worksheets and you do the process, you're going to hit your chances of hitting your goals go up dramatically, exponentially.
wow. And that's the thing that it's always a struggle to is to make sure that your goals do align with the entire person in a business, because it
Yes.
it, it has changed so much, and you can't just say, hey, we want this output or this quality and blah blah blah. You the one thing, and you probably elaborate on this a lot, and what you do is that employee engagement piece of it as part of your overall, what you're thinking about measuring and working on in a business has become more and more important.
Absolutely has. It really, really has. We have a wheel of life, and looking at the whole person, like you said, the total person.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really significant, typically, if we set a big goal, like a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, personal BHAG, right? We have to become the person we need to become to achieve that goal.
Yep.
It's, if you're whatever, $100,000 a year salesperson, or $200,000, 300, or $1 million a year sales, that's your comfort zone. And the minute you start getting, because I've seen this for 30 years, uh, even before, as soon as that salesperson goes up and they're passing their numbers, the next quarter they can't sell a thing because they adjust back to their comfort zone. We live in our comfort zones unless you're doing something intentionally to transform, some real transformative work. You're going to stay there. You can read all the books, listen to all the tapes, and have all the affirmation. I am the greatest. But you got to do the work. Muhammad Ali said, "I am the greatest," and he spent 7 days a week in the gym practicing to deliver that. Right?
To be the greatest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't just be in front of your mirror in the morning. I am the greatest. I'm the greatest, and then jump in your car and make your first sales call and practice then.
Yeah. Yeah. It is about putting in the work. And then, like you said, in sales, there's just so much. That's one of them, I think, where it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to go as far as you think you can go. And that's where you're going to go, up or down.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and a lot
yep,
of it depends upon, your mind first, and then working on to get better and better at what you do.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
you got to make a mindset shift, right? You've really got to work on your stuff if you're going to achieve higher levels of whatever, higher levels of income, any area of your life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just take it personally. I mean, take
Yeah,
it to a personal level. Your family, your spouse, your friends, whatever. If,
right.
if you want to be a better family member, It's not just going to happen, right?
Right.
You know, if you're a crazy bottle of anger waiting to explode, that's going to take some work to get that get that toned down to a point that it makes a difference.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
And it is interesting though that we are, I believe, in a interesting point in time when we've gone through this cycle of so hard to hire people leaving so quickly that um, are you finding that now people are more interested in really looking at developing and helping the people they have?
No question about it. No question about it. And they're looking at their culture. We talk about culture, we talk about core values and core purpose and all, but far too many times they're like that plaque on the wall over there. Like Enron. Enron had 4 core values that were, you'd look at them and say, hey, they're great values. In fact, the first time I read them, I said, they're great core values. I'm going to use that in my presentations. And then later on, what happened was they were just core values on the wall that nobody paid attention to. They were the espoused core values, and the company ran amok. So that's so critical. And now hiring people to get on the same page. If your personal values are not congruent or in alignment with my core values, hell, we're going to have a big problem. One of my companies, I worked with a gentleman a year or two ago, and he loved the company and all, loved their core values, and they put some money into them. And this is what you get from business owners, right? Why should I invest in them? And then they'll leave. I said, you're right. Just don't invest in them and they'll all stay and you'll have nobody growing, right?
Yeah.
So they invested in him and he left within 30 days. Now, for a lot more money. That's the only reason he left.
Yeah.
Within 30 days, he's on the phone with the owner. I'll come back. This is my job. I'll come back at same salary. I don't want any more money. Realizing how significantly different the culture was.
Yeah. That's one of the things that it always amazes me because it's well known, right? It's well known that most people don't leave for money. They leave for their managers. Yes. They leave because of culture. They leave because of working environment. There's all these other things, and money's like third, fourth down the list. Sometimes not even on the list, really. And we those same companies often focus on money and don't actually get to the root problem.
Right.
So as you're working with people and doing what you're doing, is that part of the well, when we're talking about communication today too, but when you're looking at communication, you're looking at culture, you're looking at the way that they're doing that, is that part of what you're doing? Is you're really trying to figure out how the communication styles work together and how they could be good or bad for the people in the company, or what are you really trying to do with that?
It's always in the top 1, 2, or 3 concerns of a business. We got communication problem. We got communication problems. Nobody's communicating, silos, whatever. And then they do look for technology, right? No technology will make up for poor communication, but no software, no nothing. And they just like, I can't tell you how many times I'll meet with a manager or the owner, and then we'll talk about maybe some coaching some folks on the leadership team, right? And then they'll have a problem with an employee, and I'll come in every month or twice a month, and I'll say, "Hey, Damon, did you have that conversation with that person I coached you on and we talked about?" "Yeah, I sent him an email or I sent him a text." "How'd that go?" They're the same. Well, of course they are, because there's no human connection. I sent him a text, I remember one business owner so ticked off at her parts manager because his desk was like buried. Right? Same thing. I said, so we talked. I coached her on what's sale. Came back next month. I said, "How'd that go?" She said, he didn't get it, man. I asked him if he found Jimmy Hoffa in that desk anywhere yet, and he didn't get it. I'm like, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because now explain a little bit about when you're trying to help people communicate more effectively, what are some of the key things that you really need as a team? So I've got my leadership team. We got 4 or 5 people in here, and we're going to sit down. We're going to try to communicate more effectively. So where do we start? What are some of the things we need to learn, and then how do we utilize what we learned?
The communication is the very foundation for a building block of our success in life, home, work, everything, right? And what I have found, what's absolutely amazing, was working with a coach like 20 years ago, and we're doing strategic planning together. But before every strategic planning session we ever did, he did a disc profile on everyone that would be in the room. And I asked him, what are you just trying to sell these profile things? And he says, no. I need to know who's sitting around that table and all of their disc styles. Disc is DISC, right? And it's a personality profile, and it stands for dominant, influence, steady, and conscientious. And then he told me about introverts, extroverts, task-oriented, people-oriented. And I realized that if you didn't know who was sitting at the table and you had S's and C's there who had most of the information, they weren't going to say boo in a 3-4 day retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they had all the information,
Yeah.
but no one would call on them, and they weren't going to raise their hand because the meeting will be dominated by the high D's and the high I's who are people oriented. So I do the assessment with every company, and they get it. If they've never seen that, even if they've seen it, sometimes they like, oh my goodness, if that person is a different style than myself. And you know the golden rule? What's the golden rule?
I'm at loss for it right now.
Okay. Do unto others as you would have do unto you. Well, we say that's no good, because if I'm a high D,
exactly,
right, and you're a high S, and I'm communicating in my style, there's a disconnect immediately.
Yes.
So we say the platinum rule: do unto others as they want to have done to them, right? Yeah. So we learn each other's style, and then we lay the whole thing out, and then teach them the best ways to communicate with that style, the best ways not to communicate with them. We create a whole matrix, right? Yeah. And so each person, if they learn to flex their style into the other person's style, they're going to have dramatically more effective communication. They're going to, so that is huge. That is gigantic. Now, that only works, of course, if everyone flexes into the other style.
Yeah.
Because I had a business owner who was high D, which is dominant driver, task-oriented, outgoing task-oriented, speaks in bullet points, be brief. His mantra was be brief, be bright, be gone. And I get it. So if he's a high I, an influencer comes into his office, he wants to have a big conversation about everything, right? And talk, and the high D is like be brief, be bright, be gone. So
yeah. And I think what you're saying there, though, is always an eye opener for me, and I've heard it a lot. Yeah. Is just understanding the personality types of the people around you,
right?
And realizing they're not you. First of all,
yes.
First of all, and then, because I learned about this a long time ago when we were in some businesses, and we started to use personality-based testing around hiring.
Yes.
The biggest thing I learned from it is don't hire somebody like me for every position.
Right.
And I think in business, if we don't really look at that, it's helping in the communication, those kind of things. But we don't look at that. The personality, understand them is so critical, because, you may not want to put somebody that is, like you said, a high D person in as the senior accountant, right, or somebody like that.
Right.
and nor would you want to hire a somebody that's on the other side of the scale as a salesperson.
Right. Right.
And it's so critical in that, and in the communication, the way what you're looking for in the people and the kinds of positions and stuff. And it helps you. I bet it when you start to do this, it really helps them reevaluate maybe sometimes where people are at in the leadership.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I have another assessment called the Achiever, which is dead on job match, job fit, and a validity score.
Oh
And
wow.
I remember years ago, I uh, went into a company, invited me in, and I did the Achiever on him and three other folks on his leadership team. You could have overlaid every Achiever on each other because he did just what you said. He hired all four people. Achiever was exactly like him, so he wasn't getting any new ideas, any positive skepticism, any like, no, I how are we gonna double our sales or do whatever crazy thing he wanted to do, and he was always had crazy ideas, and everybody's like, yes, we can do it. And then next month we'd have the first monthly management meeting, and nobody did it because their goals they weren't BHAGs, they were out of this world goals.
Yeah.
No one could hit them.
That's another good point. It's when you understand the people on your team, you can make sure you're getting diversity in your team as well from a personality standpoint.
Every person is unique and wonderfully made and bring a lot to the table if we understand their styles and appreciate their styles and then work with them. So 2 years ago, I'm doing a debrief about it's the whole company. The owners, after he saw it, we did the leadership. He said, I want to do everybody in the company. So we did it group by group. And I'm in this group, and this guy's sitting to my left. And we're talking about, I'm debriefing the 4 styles, D, I, S, and C. And this guy's like, I hate people. I can't stand working with people. I mean, he was just like, he just didn't want to, had no time for people or working with them. So as I'm debriefing, I'm looking at his disc. I'm like, oh yeah, no shit. He had no I, which is people oriented, high C and high D. So he was task oriented and wanted to do all the tasks right. So I talked to the owner after. I said, look, this guy you're going to lose him or fire him because he's in the wrong spot. Do you have another spot where he doesn't necessarily have to work with people, like maybe doing computer programming where you can lock them in a closet or something, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I forget exactly what they found a job for him, and he's happy. It was a win-win, but it wouldn't have been long if they didn't find the right job for him that he would have been gone.
Yeah.
He was stressed out when I was debriefing him.
Yeah. Wow. So as you're doing this, right? So you're going in, you're helping people understand different people. Now, give us some examples about on a daily basis how this is going to help me as a leader, me as a team member when we're going throughout the day.
Well, think about it. Poor communication leads to poor performance, right? So that right away, quality is going to go down, performance is going to go down. Plus, depending on your style, if you've got a high D CEO or driver, maybe even in sales, right? And they're driving, they're taking not bad deals, but they're taking deals that it's going to take a lot of work to figure out, or projects that they got more moving parts than you can shake a stick at. And then you've got a high C who's the project manager who has all like a process, right? And everything, and like what you just sold, none of that fits into that process. And it's like a disaster. So I just did I right before Christmas, before I left, right? I did a company, I think maybe 8 or 9 people that we debriefed, and again, the light bulbs went off. Human beings have an infinite capacity for self-delusion. Let me say that again. Human beings have an infinite capacity for self-delusions. So high D's think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. High I's think they're the greatest communicator. the greatest, they're the worst listener. High, and we all have assets and stuff, but used to the extreme, all of our strengths become our weaknesses. So the CEO, and I guess the other person would have been really the second in command. They were they were going at it for a year, head to head. They couldn't agree on anything, and it's the minute that each of them, we debriefed their styles and they understood how different they were. Every time they met, it was like two people meeting, speaking two different languages that the other one didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, they never got anywhere.
Yeah. Because I fill in here, but it is, you see this in business a lot. The owner, founder, CEO, whatever, they tend to be kind of a visionary, like you said, driver. And then when you look at the others in the organization, like the operational people, or get into the technical people or something like that, they have to be more detail oriented, get all the facts, process driven, those kind of things. And when you look at how different those two personality styles are, the
Yes.
CEO wants to be able to say, hey, let's go climb that mountain. And then the other person there wants to go, okay, what's the path? What are the conditions? How many people are going? How fast do we need to do it? And this person wants to know nothing of that.
Right. And when
wants to get there.
And when he does that to the person who's looking for all those other benchmarks, that other person can't take it. They're like, because they don't understand it. Like, how could you just charge up that mountain? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you crazy? We have to have or they tell the person, we want to climb that mountain. So the person comes back to them with the plan. And they say, we're leaving today, this afternoon. They throw a hand grenade in the, those folks, they're the high S's, the steady relators. They're the heart and soul of the business. They get all the work done. They're the producer. They're steady Eddie, steady Edith's, 9-to-5ers, and committed to the company. I mean, they're great people, and you'll never know they're there. They'll be at the lunchroom, they'll be in a meeting, and they really won't say boo because they're very introverted, but they're just going to crank it out day in and day out. They're producers of, in that sense, right? Not like sales producers, but your organization will come to a screeching halt without them.
Yeah. 1 second. I will be. And someone was demanding my attention. A 20-pound West Highland Terrier.
Oh.
I had a chance to either let him in my office or hear him bark.
Right.
So, I was on mute there. Sorry. But that is because you're right. And this is why I think it's so interesting when we talk about communication, effective communication, how you do this. And I learned it far too late in my life, and it's still, still beneficial, but in my management and career is I was perfectly all right with somebody saying we're going up the mountain, and then I just figured it out, right? And
right.
That just is not good for everybody. And when you start to try to, you don't understand that, man, it just really does paralyze
Right.
the people that would get you up the mountain, the way you wanted exactly, if they just knew what it was.
Right. Remember the movie Into Thin Air and the book?
Mm-hmm.
They climbed Mount Everest. The best of the best guys died, disaster, frostbitten, pieces of their body parts falling off, and it was a complete mess. Talk about poor communications at the ultimate level and not understanding who is on that trip. High S's, the steady they'll do the job. They want to know why. If you're going to change up stuff, they want to know why. They don't just like a high deal. Yeah, we're changing it. We're pulling that software out and putting a new one in tomorrow, right? So they'll change, but they have to know the why behind the what. You can't just tell them, look, just take that hill, charge up that hill. What are you, crazy?
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. So as you see the workplace today,
Yes.
and you're helping people today, now we've got this unique situation where sometimes we've got 3 and 4 generations in the workplace.
Yes.
How do you believe that the multi-generational aspect that we're dealing with more today is even leveling this up more, the importance of understanding and communicating differently?
Oh, without a doubt. The, look, communicating, whether you're a millennial or a Gen X or a baby boomer or whatever, right? We still need to communicate with people. And when a lot of the disconnect, there's some disconnect over values and things like that. But the more training and developing I do, and the more younger people I have in these management, they're like rock stars. I'm like, these kids are right. I mean, they're doing the program, they're doing the homework, they're doing the assignments, and like with the folks my age, they're like, I have to listen to that, I have to read that, I have to do the assignments. Yeah, if you want to, they just push back all the time, and it just because they're like been there, done that. 60, 65, 50 to 670 range, and I don't want to learn anything new. I don't care. But when they do, also when they learn each other's, see, when we do the disc, you get your own copy. So
Yeah.
when the people read it, right, they're like, oh my God, I just did this in 10 minutes and I get this 25-page report and it's so accurate. And every once in a while I get pushback, right? That baloney, that report, that's crap. I said, well, we have a way to validate that. Are you married or do you have a really good friend that you could give the report to and let them read it and let them give you feedback? Yeah, I do. I do. Well, do that tonight. And when I come in next week, we'll talk about it then. So the next week they come in, they're like, yeah, my wife or my husband said that report is absolutely positive. They throw it down, absolutely accurate. And that is me. Again, human beings have an infinite capacity for self delusion.
I wrote that down. That is such a great saying because it is. I mean, we think what we think.
Yes, yes. And when you understand like that other person, whoever that other person is, and you want to have more effective communication. You also start to be a little bit more empathetic, and especially if you're a high D. So I had an admin, great, a high S, which is what I needed, steady, do all the work, get it all done. And I remember one morning, this is before the pandemic and all, when she'd come in the office, and she came in. I said, "Hey, how you doing? Good, good, good." And you could tell by the body line, by everything, right? She was good at all. I said, listen, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being you can't get any better, life is good, and 1, you're ready to jump off a bridge. I said, where are you now? And she said, like a 4. And I was like, whoa. I pushed my chair back. I said, okay, let's talk before we even,
Yeah.
and we talked half hour, 15, and I'm like, look, here's 10 PowerPoints to prepare for, here's this, get these, I don't want to talk about anything. Be brief, be bright, and be gone. Just get the work done. But I knew she was important to me. She's an important asset to my company. If that asset is important enough, then I better take some time to do it, right? To take care of it. I take care of my car every 3,000 miles, change the oil filter, rotate the tire, do all this stuff so it runs forever, right? All copiers, whatever, they all have maintenance agreement. My computer, my tech guides are in there every single month doing a scrub, doing the cyber, doing all that stuff, right? Why wouldn't I take care of my people like that?
Mm-hmm.
I knew immediately that something was off. So
Yeah.
spend a little time talking to her, finding out what's going on. Not that I could solve any of those problems, but you know what? The greatest gift we can give somebody is our presence, being here. We don't realize that. Look how little, yet how gigantically significant that is.
Mhm.
I worked with a leadership coach one time, and we used to get together and have lunch, and I'd go off on some rant, and he'd say, "Do you want me to listen, or do you want me to listen and give you feedback?" And it was a great question, because some days I'd say, "Just listen. I don't want any advice, feedback, nothing." And other days I'd say, "No, no, I want you to listen, and I want you to give me feedback." But what a great question! Do you want me to
It is.
just listen to you, or do you want me to listen and give you feedback? And I was right there. I was like, we were eyeball to eyeball. That's so powerful. What a gift that you give someone.
Mhm. That's a that first of all, the gift of presence
Yes,
is it's the like you said, it's the best gift you can give someone. And things like this make it much more difficult, but
oh yeah,
it makes it even more precious when you do give it.
yes,
And I think that a first of all is if you can, like you said, if you can do nothing else but just stop and focus when you're
right,
talking with someone, that's and you don't even have to know all the other stuff. If you do that one thing, that's a big step.
yes, yes.
And
It's a gigantic step.
yeah, yeah. And
It's one small step for mankind,
yeah.
man, a giant leap for mankind, or something like that.
Well, you're right. You're right, because we're all human.
Yeah,
We're not great at a lot of things, like you said. We have that infinite capacity for self delusion, but if we did nothing more than just said, "I'm going to concentrate on the people I'm talking to
yes, yes.
and
You,
listen to what they're saying,"
yeah.
I think we can get that part right.
And I don't. I mean, a lot of people are complaining about Zoom and Zoom fatigue and all that stuff. I, we're having a great conversation, and I'm totally 100%. Might even be more present to you, uh, because I'm not. I'm just focusing on you and not the other stuff around me, not the shiny object. Like, I love books, obviously you could tell
Yeah,
that. So I think it's valuable, and I
yeah.
we would have never even met if it wasn't
Oh
for
yes, yes,
Zoom, this type of technology. You're out on
yeah.
the West Coast, I'm on the East
But
Coast.
there. This is something when you talk about communication. I think there, for me, and the whole this you see all the not a lot, but a lot of companies are mandating return to the office more
Right?
days or full time and
Yeah.
those kind of things. And I think the COVID pandemic just made it necessary, right? We're going to have to run our business like that.
Right. Right. Right.
But as we look at towards the future, understanding your people and two, using it to communicate more effectively, like we're talking about, is a great way to utilize that. But the other thing it does, and I was talking to Noah Puze that was on the show earlier this week, and he was talking about um, they have a software product that helps with periodic evaluations. I'm not even giving it justice. It's
Yeah.
not an evaluation, but it's more like a 360 peer anonymous thing. But that's not my point. My point is that if you understand the personality profiles of the people that on your team, you're going to be able to see that Damon is this kind of person, and Damon is going to be or not going to be effective effective working outside the office, or may need some additional coaching or help to work outside the office, or maybe even be the one that needs to be in the office because they're going to work in that much more. And I think while it is very beneficial to be able to offer a hybrid work environment,
Yeah.
it has no doubt added complexity to the management, not just because we got people in different places,
Right.
but because now we've also incorporated that other variable that some people work well in an office and some
Yes.
people don't
Yes.
need it.
Right. 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 That's a great point too.
Because
Yeah.
you start to think about all this stuff and you go,
Yeah.
communication, yes, communication is number one, but and I won't say but,
Yeah.
and understanding the people better that allows that communication also that understanding allows you to help them develop better, help put them in the right situations for success, and keep them out of situations that, like you said, with our infinite capacity for self-delusion, that they will put themselves in that they think they're going to be successful, but they're going to bomb.
Yeah. Yeah. That when I went into this business on my own, I got out of this sporting goods business. Every single day of my adult life, before I went into this business, I went to an office, and I had an office, I had staff, I had everything, right? I mean, it was all there. And when I started this business, well, I don't need an office. I work out of my house. What a mistake. The transition of like, well, you know what? I'm here. I'll just throw a load of wash in. I'll just do this. So that it was a disaster. Uh, it was a it was a real disaster. It took me a while, and I had to get out. I had to get out.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's that kind of understanding that we have of ourselves and the others around us, because I really think when you look at it, business is communication. And
yes.
I'll tell you, it's interesting for me personally, now that we help more companies in healthcare and other things that aren't like starting out in manufacturing. You got the whole
Yeah.
technical aspect of what we're building and all that kind of stuff that
Yeah.
drives some of the things that you need to worry about. But when you're working in a business that's so people focused, like a retail or a healthcare setting, it
Mhm.
is even more critical to
Yeah.
understand the people, how they work together, personalities, and everything. It's,
Only if you want to get great results.
well,
Otherwise, you're going to lose your people. You're going to burn them out. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to hold a grudge. They're going, you're going to have a lot of resentments going on. It's just a bad scenario.
yeah, yeah. So if you had to tell people listening, what are the two most important things they should think about if they want to help their organization communicate more effectively, what would they be?
Well, without a doubt, understand the disc profile of every single person. But in addition to that, when you're having a conversation with anyone, whether you know the style or not, is ask for ask a question like, Damon, let me make sure that I understood what you just said or what you just asked. Okay, just to make sure that we're on the same page, right? Because I'm a Pollock, I'm a little slow on the uptake. Make poke a little fun, they'll laugh, but then you're going to get feedback. They're going to say, "This is what I heard. I've done this before," and they say, "No, that's not. No, you're way off it. Okay, let's try it again." And so asking, and people don't want to do that, right? Because they get the bobbly head. First of all, especially if you're a manager and you're telling an employee what to do, the employees like the bobbing head up in the 1960s Chevy,
Yeah,
and they walk out of the room and they say, "What the hell is he or she talking about? I have no idea." But they're not. They don't want to embarrass themselves or put themselves on the spot. Uh, it's easier the older you get to, because then you don't care. You just say, "Look, I don't understand. Help me out. Help me out because I don't get it." And
I'm
the other,
glad I'm not the only one that thinks that, because it does get easier, and that is one. I come back again to communication and
yeah,
setting that expectations for people to ask when they don't really understand is something that leaders really need to do, because
right.
it makes a tremendous difference.
And the second thing is expectation management. What are your expectations from this conversation? What are my expectations? You get expectation management, and again, validate it some way, feedback, whatever. Then there's no mutual mystification, and that's what happens all the time. Mutual mystification. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Yeah. The expectation management. So we got understand the profile, your
Yeah.
depth profile on the people. Make sure you're understanding what they're really saying to you, and then manage expectations.
And ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand, look, everybody, not everybody, but lots of people in their own businesses, right? They have buzzwords for everything. So even when I'm doing these workshops, I'm like, "Excuse me, what's that BH mean? That BWH, the what the XYZ, whatever, right? And people around the table, they're like, I'm glad you asked that. I didn't know what the heck they meant, right? People have been around a long time. We all have buzzwords for our business. And even worse than that, the 500 most common words in the English language have 15,000 different meanings. Do you think there's some opportunity there for a problem, for a challenge, right?
So 500 words have 15,000. The 500 most popular words in the English language have 15,000 meanings. Yeah.
When I would do sales training, I put up I said, all right, everybody, I want you to take a pencil, paper, and I want you to answer this question. I'm going to write a word on the whiteboard here. I'm going to write one word, and I want you to write all the words you think that means. So I'd write the word salesman or salesperson, dirtbag, high pressure, loud suit, fast talk. I mean, like they had no problem coming up with 50 or 100 words to describe that. Now I'd say, okay, I'm going to do the same thing with a different word. Education, all kinds of stuff. I had a guy do it one time with me. One of my coaches in a group. He said circus, and people were clown, all the circus animals. And I was the first one. I said Washington D.C. and he looked at me. I'm like, well, that was when you said circus. That's what came to my mind, right? I got a great one for you though. I'll share this story because this is a word that has multiple meanings. Okay, and I think it'll drive the point out. It's easy to understand up, meaning toward the sky, or at least top of the list. But when we awaken in the morning, why do we wake up? At a meeting, why does a topic come up? Why do we speak up? And why are the officers up for election when it is up to the secretary to write up a report? We call up our friends and brighten up a room. We polish up the silver, warm up the leftovers, and clean the kitchen. We lock the house up, and some guys fix up an old car. At other times, this two-letter word has a real special meaning. People stir up trouble, line up for tickets, work up an appetite, and think up excuses. Here's the conflicting use of the word up. A drain must be opened up because it is stopped up or blocked up. We open up a store in the morning, but we close it up at night. No wonder folks are so mixed up in the world.
That is a great example because how many gazillion meetings are out of the way you used it?
Right.
Wow. Well, Michael, it's been awesome talking to you today about communicating more effectively and just to reiterate, understanding the importance of using something like a DISC profile to understand the people you're trying to communicate with, making sure you're understanding, managing expectations, and asking good clarifying questions. And then, as you said before, learning how to flex into other people's styles so you're communicating with them the way they really need to be communicated with rather than your style when it's appropriate. And then in the last thing you said too, I think is really drives home the reason for the importance of communication is the 500 words and 15,000 meetings.
Yes.
That's all right.
The phone went nuts. I couldn't swipe it.
That's just the way it works. But the 500 words and 500 most used words in the English language with 15,000 meanings. And then your use of the word up in so many different situations clarifies the need for communicating more effectively, succinctly.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here today, Michael. Thanks everyone for listening. I appreciate you taking the time with us, Michael.
You're very welcome. You're really welcome. Great job.
So if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best place to get a hold of you?
www.achievable.com, or michael@achievable.com, or pick up the phone and have a real conversation at 610-496-0399.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here today. Thanks everyone else. And we will be back again next week. Michael, just hang out for a moment. We'll talk
Yep.
to you.
Okay.